Taurus is constructive, it's about quality, and it's about money. So, what does it mean when you have Mercury in Taurus? Well, that's what we're going to be covering today through each of the houses. And also we'll bring up a few people that have this placement that are celebrities before we do that. So let's start out by talking about the general meanings of Mercury in Taurus. Mercury is about communication, it's about thinking, it's how our mind works. And Mercury is also about trade and commerce because in Greek mythology, he was the god of delivery, commerce, and messages. So those that have Mercury in Taurus, they can be traders, like financial traders. They can have an interest in that, or they can be merchants. They like to buy and sell things. That's something for sure because Taurus is the fixed earth sign. It's about material things. We'll talk about what fixed signs mean perhaps in a little bit, but earth signs are about objects, luxury things, items, and anything material. Now, also, when you have Mercury in Taurus, which is the sign that is constructive, it's about quality, and it's about money. We already talked about money, but it also shows that you have a constructive mindset. Those that have Mercury in Taurus, their communication style is to speak facts and to speak from a place of core values or principles that everybody basically knows or agrees upon. And so this is why when people hear you communicate, they can find you almost like a source of wisdom because this placement shows that you are a source of practical knowledge or advice for other people. One of the qualities of Taurus is that they are quite self-reliant and guarded, or they can be in their own bubble. Now, that's not necessarily the case when you have Mercury in Taurus, but in general, people come to Tauruses for help, and their friends come to them for support or asking for things because Taurus is the sign that is like a provider, or it has value, or it has money, or it has things that matter, and also they're self-reliant. So when you have Mercury in Taurus, it just shows that you're self-reliant in your way of thinking. You kind of just think for yourself, and other people come to you for advice. And the reason the reason Taurus can be self-reliant is because it's right next to the sign Aries. Aries is the sign of self, so this is a quality that they may share, with being on the same side of the zodiac. So the next thing about Taurus is it is a sign that represents quality, or like sense of aesthetics or taste. It's all about taste because Taurus is the sign that rules the senses, and it's ruled by Venus, and Venus is all about value, material things, money, and worth. So Mercury and Taurus people are creatives, and they have a good sense, and this is because they have a good sense of quality. Their mind is always thinking in terms of what would be the best quality outcome, and so this makes them natural artists of life. Even when they try to execute a work idea or a school project, they think about all the quality factors that are going to matter in the outcome, and the factors that are going to matter in terms of the final quality. And so that's another thing about Mercury and Taurus is it makes people artistic or creative in some sense, and it can just be more of an unconscious thing. The last thing is that Mercury and Taurus, they like to think about money or business. They have a constructive mindset, so they know how to get from point A to point B, and so on and so forth. They know how to get to point Z even, because they take a step-by-step practical approach to things. And Mercury and Taurus would show somebody that's good at strategizing or making a plan. Like these people are great at putting together a plan, because Mercury does great with information and Taurus does great with practicality. So their plans can be very inventive or creative even. Mercury kind of brings more air to the earthly elements of Taurus. So whereas Taurus would always be practical, Mercury makes it a little bit more inventive. And so these people are great, at business and commerce and all this kind of stuff. So now let's talk about, last thing. Taurus is about talents. Every time you have planets in the second house or in Taurus, these show natural talents, because these are the house and the sign that represent quality. So if one of your planets isn't in there, that means that you have a quality way of expressing this planet. And what does that mean? That means you look talented in the eyes of others. So with Mercury in Taurus, it can show people that are verbally talented, like they are good with words, good communicators, and or they can make money from some sort of communication work or platform. So like these can be people that their career, or like part of how they make money, is Mercury things, which is either commerce, like I said, or what we didn't say is like communication. So like podcasting, blogging, vlogging, writing, and just anything that uses the mind or the words. So if this is a business idea that you've wanted to do as a Mercury and Taurus, then your astrology basically gives you a green light on this. Overall, you would be a talented communicator, and some people will be great singers that have this placement, because Taurus rules the voice, the mouth, and the neck, kind of this upper region that's having to do with one's voice, upper region of the body, around the mouth and the neck and the tongue. So they will all generally have a nice or pleasant quality to their voice, and some of them will be excellent singers even. This is one of the few placements that shows that, like, very easily. So now let's talk about a few people that have this placement before talking about what it means through each of the houses. Johnny Depp has this placement. Kanye West, Robert Pattinson, George Clooney, Megan Fox, Emma Watson, Kristen Stewart, Uma Thurman, John F. Kennedy had this placement. Gigi Hadid, Tom Holland, the actor, David Beckham, Jessica Alba, Penelope Cruz, Sigmund Freud, a philosopher, had this placement. Jack Nicholson, Melania Trump, Clint Eastwood, Salvador Dali, Bono, U2, the artist, had this placement. Melanie Martinez, the singer, has this placement. And many more people have this placement that I haven't listed, including Selena, the singer, Scott Disick, Janet Jackson, and a lot more. So now let's talk. And a big one is Notorious B.I.G. There's also Azalea Banks and Malcolm X, which was going along with the theme of these people being sources of wisdom to other people, because these people come to them for advice, and they almost play the role of like a teacher or a motivator or an inspirer sometimes. And then of course we have Morgan Freeman that has this placement as well. This is an example of somebody that has the great voice and like makes money from their voice as well. This is a great commentator, even, voice actor, and also an actor in general. So Mercury and Taurus can help with communication themed platforms, and acting is a form of communication. Being able to communicate emotions and a script well through your characters is having to do with Mercury. So Mercury and Taurus can help with acting as well in that sense. But now let's talk about what it means to each of the houses. In the first house, this will show somebody that is a natural business person. I was going to say a con man or a con woman, but that's not the case, because Mercury can be the trickster god, but it's like in Taurus, it has more integrity. It is not so much of a trickster, but it keeps the cleverness and the business savviness. So since the first house represents personality and identity, Mercury kind of becomes a aspect of like how you are seen by others, or like kind of your personality. And so these are really money oriented people, I would say, to have such a Taurus placement in your first house. So money becomes a big part of your identity, or like, schemes and ways of making money. So like these are people that are good communicators, good salespeople, or they're into commerce, they're into buying and selling things, and it's like just a big part of their identity as a whole. And out of a room of a bunch of people, if we had to choose the person that needed to be the sales representative for like a product or something, it would likely be this person, because it's like a part of their natural gifts and identity. Also, they could be naturally talented communicators, or singers, even speakers, writers, anything that requires communication. Next, let's talk about Mercury in Taurus in the second house. Mercury in Taurus in the second house will show somebody that can be fixed in terms of their values and their opinions. Like their mind doesn't change about a lot of things, because the second house is a fixed house and Taurus is a fixed sign. In fact, they both rule the same sign in the same house. So these are very practical oriented people, and when it comes to their way of thinking, they don't like to take a lot of risks, and they don't like unknowns. So I would say they have this solid and down to earth mind and communication style. And Mercury can be one of the ways that they make money. And what is Mercury? Mercury is about the mind. Mercury is about communication. And the reason why it can make them money is because the second house is about finances. So this is like a double confirmation of making money from communication or from commerce. Their mind often, thinks about the worth of things. And it often thinks about money, because that's what Mercury represents. It represents our mind. And so in this double financial placement, that's why they can think a lot about finances. And finances will often or always seem to play a role in their decisions, at least from the perspective of other people, and whether something is a good deal or not. So next, this leads us to Mercury in Taurus in the third house. In the third house, Mercury is spontaneous and inventive. It is clever. Mercury represents our mind and our way of thinking. And Taurus is a sign that represents money and material things. It's also about aesthetics. It's ruled by Venus, which is about value, art, beauty, etc. So in general, this is somebody that gets a lot of creative ideas that would have, Mercury in Taurus in the third house. They get a lot of original ideas of how to make money. And oftentimes it requires, creating a product, because Taurus is the sign that Mercury is in. And So it's showing that the ideas that they get tend to be around objects or like creations and things that have like some sort of quality or usage. Overall, how I would summarize Mercury and Taurus in the third house is it's a placement that shows people that have an ability to create opportunities for themselves. Um, so also they will be solid communicators because Mercury is witty and like crafty when it's in the third house, and is good at small talk as well. Next, let's talk about Mercury in Taurus when it's in the fourth house. The fourth house is an internal side of ourselves. It's like a private personality that doesn't necessarily show on the outside. So what people don't notice about you is how much of an intellectual that you are, or how much internal dialogue that you have, with having Mercury being the planet that's in your fourth house, or one of them. Mercury is about the mind. So a lot of times those that have Mercury in the fourth house, they are more observant than talkative, and they keep their thoughts to themselves, but they are processing a lot of things unbeknownst to others, and they absorb a lot of information. Also, the fourth house is a house that represents security and roots, foundations, and Taurus is about finances and stability. So these people that have this placement, it's just showing that their mind thinks a lot about security and stability, and it thinks a lot about the future, because the fourth house is the house that rules things that are long term, and it's all about growth. So these people always think about growth. That's another thing about them. Now, this is also another very creative combination of a house and a sign, because the fourth house represents hobbies and activities that we invest time, care, or energy into for a non-professional purpose. Why is that? Well, that's because the fourth house opposes the 10th house. The 10th house is about responsibilities, our public image, our career, and how we are known. So the fourth house are all the things that we do and that we invest a lot of time into that are non-professional. So it shows creative interests, creative hobbies, especially because it's a water house. Water is about synergy. It's about, creating new forms. Because if you pour water into a different shaped cup, it will take on a different form. It's very formless, and you can freeze water, create ice with it, for example, and you can create different forms with it. So water just shows this ability to create forms and stuff. So anyway, having Mercury in Taurus and in this water house, Taurus is about like quality. It's about aesthetics and senses. So this combination shows people with creative talent and like creative interests, and it shows in this case that Mercury is the planet that expresses itself creatively. So these can be people that are creative with their words, with poetry, with writing, or writing stories, or like these can be singers, rappers, artistic people in general. And finally, Mercury is about the mind, and it's like about skills. It's very multifaceted. So if none of the other things applied, it could just show that your mind just comes up with creative projects and ideas. And overall, this placement also just shows that you think about growth, and you think about stability a lot, and perhaps finances in the process. So next, this leads us to Mercury in Taurus in the fifth house. These are very expressive people, and this would be one of those placements that shows a performer or a singer, somebody that has a quality voice, and they like to express it through creations and through performing. or it could be showing somebody that likes to communicate on a platform where they can be seen and where they can also advance some sort of business objectives at the same time. So like where they can like get paid or make money from speaking their opinions. Overall, they just like to give value to others, because the fifth house is about giving value, and Taurus is about quality and it's about sense of value as well. So your communication style is very oriented around those things, and it can be a very business oriented thing for you. Next, this leads us to Mercury in Taurus in the sixth house. These are both a practical sign and a practical house, because these are earth placements. The sixth house is a mutable earth sign, and Taurus is a fixed earth sign. So having Mercury in the sixth house just shows somebody that is sharp-witted, and they are good with information, facts, and statistics. They're also good at accounting. They're good at keeping spreadsheets of things, because the sixth house represents small things, and is about organization. So they have an organized mindset. That's what I would say, and they're just good with juggling a variety of information or a variety of things. These people have great ideas about how to organize homes, or how to organize possessions, or how to organize one's finances. And those tend to be the topics that they think about a lot, because Mercury represents what we think about. And since it's in Taurus, Taurus represents finances, and it also represents having good senses, or good artistic taste or aesthetic taste. So these people can be skilled in a crafty manners, like they can be good at crafts or DIY things. And in general, they love to learn. And the sixth house loves to observe. So overall, though, communication can be a part of one's day-to-day job, because the sixth house also represents our work life and our routine. Next, this leads us to Mercury in Taurus in the seventh house. Both the seventh house and Taurus are ruled by Venus. The seventh house is having to do with how one relates to others. It's about relationships. And Taurus is about finances or practical matters. And Venus is about business. It's about transactional matters, because it's about love as well. And so having this double Venus ruled Mercury, it just shows somebody that's a master of Mercury, of Venus topics. Venus is about value and exchange. So I feel like those that have Mercury in Taurus in the seventh house, they're great communicators, because they know how to speak in a way that is appealing towards others. That's what this placement shows overall. Venus is all about appeal, and it's all about attracting what we want from others. So this placement shows a communicator, or a person that's able to attract what they want through words or through explanations. They can explain an idea very well and get other people on board for it. And also their communication is very focused on other people, and like trying to communicate their perspectives towards others, and trying to be relatable, or like gain other people's support. So they're very convincing and persuasive. That's what I would say with Mercury in Taurus in the seventh house. In fact, a lot of those that have this placement will be Scorpio risings. Scorpio is about persuasion and seduction. So this is a Scorpio type placement. And Scorpio is all about psychology. So they'll be great at psychology as well. And that perfectly leads us to Mercury in Taurus in the eighth house. Because the eighth house is about psychology. So one of the traits of the previous placement was that they're persuasive and they're good at appealing towards others, or gaining support, towards their opinions. And Mercury in the 8th house will show a similar effect, because they have a good grasp of psychology in general and how to create the illusion of quality. The 8th house is ruled by Scorpio, or like associated to Scorpio. And Scorpio is the sign that opposes Taurus. So whereas Taurus rules superficial appearances, and it rules like the quality of things, and it rules, material things, Scorpio rules whatever is beneath the surface. And it represents illusions. It's about psychology. It's about how to give the illusion of quality sometimes. And so having this combination of Mercury in Taurus and the 8th house just shows like somebody that's very gifted at creating quality through creating illusions, or through using people's psychology. So these can be people that can make something look a lot greater than what it actually is, using human psychology. So what do I mean by that? Or like, what's an example? This can be somebody that can create a lot of trust in their brand by, portraying themselves a certain way, and it gives a very quality effect. So Mercury just shows that they're very clever at this, and some communication plays a big role of how they do it. So it's how they use words, or how they describe things, and how they use information. Next, this leads us to Mercury in Taurus in the 9th house. The 9th house is about knowledge and expansion, and Taurus is about finances. So those that have Mercury in Taurus in the 9th house, for one, since Mercury represents the mind, it shows that their mind is always on expanding their finances, or learning about finances, learning about new opportunities. And also they're lovers of knowledge, and they like to think about knowledge. They don't just like to consume it, but they like to understand knowledge. That's what Mercury shows when it's in the 9th house, because the 9th house is about beliefs, and it's about information that comes from other people, because it opposes the 3rd house. The 3rd house is about our mind and our opinions. So when we share our 3rd house to other people, we're acting like their 9th house. And when they share their information, this is what the 9th house is. This is why 9th house rules teachers, people that we, listen to, and like it rules gurus, preachers, religious figures, because it's all about believing things. So when Mercury's in the 9th house, though, they show somebody that likes to understand what the teacher is saying, or understand knowledge. They don't just like to listen to it. And they could be naturally very wise people, and they're also good at explaining things. So they're some of the greatest message spreaders, like the greatest evangelists, teachers, motivators, etc. Because Mercury shows this ability to use information logically and like explain things. So they're very convincing, and they're great storytellers. That's another thing. So this could be an aspect of how you make money, is literally teaching others. This is a very strong ability that you have, that you may or may not be aware of. You can make money through teaching some sort of skills that you have mastered in your personal life, or that play a big role of your day-to-day life. Also, you tend to think about money, so and expanding your finances. And so a lot of people that have this placement, they will become practical teachers. Like they'll teach about financial topics. They'll be good at that kind of stuff. And they'll be teaching about saving money, or how to find deals, or teaching about opportunities. But they're always constantly consuming more information and learning more, and they just know a lot of things. And they have some very stable beliefs and convictions, because Taurus is stable, and the 9th house is about convictions, and Mercury shows opinions. So they can be opinionated people. Next, this leads us to Mercury in Taurus in the 10th house. The 10th house shows how we are known. It shows our public image. And Taurus is all about quality. It's like about senses and aesthetics, and It's a material sign. It's ruled by Venus. It's all about worth, objects, and appearances. So it's very appealing. And having Mercury in your 10th house in Taurus will just show that a big part of your image is communicating information in a appealing manner. A lot of times those that have Mercury in their 10th house, their success is very related towards communication and towards media. So social media may be a big part of your life, or like your success or your ambitions. Another thing is that you have this ability to like convince others of how you want to be seen, because you have a good way of portraying yourself. 10th house in Taurus just shows somebody that has a quality or appealing image. And Mercury just shows that part of how you create this appeal is through your words, or how you talk about what you do to others. And the way that you talk about it seems to make a lot of sense, or it's like very practical, and it's like appealing or pleasant in some way. So these are people that are great at promoting themselves or promoting things in general, because the 10th house is about fame or like relationship to the public. And Taurus is about finances and like quality and being constructive. So they're very good at growing like a following, or creating trust in a product or in themselves, or making people have a favorable opinion of them. That's what I think. And you may have the 10th house in Aries or in a different sign than just Taurus, but this is a Taurus placement that you have in your 10th house. So that's why I brought up 10th house in Taurus and what that means. And overall, those show people that are great at promoting themselves through maintaining a appealing image. And the image itself, like, it's almost like it promotes them, like the quality of what they do promotes itself, and it shows growth. So next, let's talk about Mercury in Taurus in the 11th house. Now this one is very exciting. I like this one a lot because the 11th house is inventive. It's forward thinking. So when there's an influence of 11th house in a chart, it shows somebody that does things in ways that have never been done before. And it shows people that are inventive, And when Mercury is in Taurus in this case, and in the 11th house, this shows people that are very entrepreneurial, because Taurus is about finances. So they're financially inventive. Also, it's about material objects. So they could be literal inventors, because they can create like new objects, like new things that have some sort of usage or value. Taurus is about value. And usually Mercury is, will show that this is what your mind thinks about, because Mercury is about the mind. So in this case, the combination of Taurus and the 11th house is having to do with your ideas and like just the way that you think. So like you're very forward thinking, you're very inventive, and overall you're very creative. And your mind is very enterprising. You're always thinking about clever or efficient ways to make money. The 11th house is about technology and efficiency. It's all about, progress and the future. And it represents new lanes, new avenues. So these are the people that were the first onto social media. These are the people that were the first to become streamers on Twitch and on online streaming platforms. Like, these are the types of people that were the first to make money from things like OnlyFans, or like anything that's like new and, like advanced and having to do with the internet or technology. And the 11th house finally will show entrepreneurs, because it represents streams of income. So like Mercury does super well in the 11th house because it shows somebody that's clever and opportunistic and able to make money for themselves or make streams of income for themselves easily by just thinking about new opportunities and by consuming new information. So ultimately, it would just show that you're an entrepreneur, and also Mercury is about commerce. So they know how to sell things, or use information to advertise uh, something that they do, like, or like a product that they want to sell. They're just good at being persuasive. And overall, in Taurus, Mercury can become part of the ways that you make money. So definitely these people make most of their money through side hustles, or like through being their own boss, like through being an entrepreneur and by following their best ideas. So next, this leads us to Mercury in Taurus in the 12th house. This is one of the most creative placements, and it will show a lot of singers, a lot of creative communicators, and just people that have a vivid imagination. Their mind tends to think in terms of pictures, because the 12th house is about our imagination and our perception, our subconscious, and Mercury shows the way that we think. And then Taurus is about objects and material things, and it's about pleasure and aesthetics and like quality. So your mind thinks a lot in terms of images or visions. You can have strong visionary qualities, and your Mercury shows that it tries to be clever about those things, or like it tries to take those visions and turn them into money or turn it into an opportunity. And finally, the 12th house is about dreams. So your mind thinks about dreams of wealth, or it thinks about dreams of talent as well, and expressing your talents, because Taurus is about talent, because talents are the things that give us worth as individuals. And Taurus is the sign of worth. So when you have a planet in your 12th house and in Taurus, is having to do with uh, dreams around your talents. And Mercury can show that you have a dream around communication, because you might have a talent for communication, or a dream around singing, or you have this desire to promote your talents through the media or through information, and perhaps make money from it, and like sell merchandise and sell things. So that is Mercury in Taurus through each of the houses.